Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson. I'm Dr. Jefferson, your host. And today we're going to talk about insecurities. It is something that definitely bothers people. I guess it's a pester to people and, you know, it's annoying for most. Hey Lisa, how are you? But oftentimes we only look at the negative connotation. We look at the negative connotation, I feel, because we're not sure as to how insecurities can to make a positive difference in our lives. So today I'm going to talk about some of the positive impacts of insecurities. I'm going to talk about how some insecurities can definitely be spot on. Um, and you know, right into it. Hey, oh yeah. Now I see. Hey Casey, what's going on with you? Um, Lisa, did you catch some of Rush's commentary the other day? Like this guy. So I asked people about I started the conversation off with have you ever been tethered to? So involved with a person that has some very strong seated insecurities, um, walked a life with or been related to someone that had serious insecurities. But I feel like it's important for us to not only identify our insecurities, but also identify the benefits. And of course, the benefits for the people that we're tethered to. Um, so, over the course of this conversation, we're going to talk about a couple of things. And I want you guys to share your perspectives, your insight. Make sure you share the content, of course. And we're going to talk about the emotional and psychological benefits of insecurities, okay? And some of the cons, of course. So, the first thing I want to say is that in relationships, when we think about intimate partner relationships and we think about all the things that lead to intimate partner violence, a lot of people, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that somebody's insecure, somebody's not secure with self, somebody's not being their best version of self, and all of these things. However, insecurities can be pretty deep seated, and oftentimes in relationships, when we think that insecurities lead to these things, false sense of security, which is quite different a bit from insecurity, can lead to intimate partner violence and emotional and verbal attacks against people. When we look at some of the things that I have seen in these YouTube streets as I have been kind of transitioning coming here from Facebook, doing my lives and stuff there, I have seen a lot of insecurities around the behaviors and the mannerisms and how we interact as black and brown people on social media. So, the ones that I want to kind of point out at the top of things are some of the accountability conversations that I've already had around some content that was released by Tanya TKO, Nyla Speaks, I think it's, and Cynthia G. There was a collaboration that the three of them did in response to the obvious insecurities and trauma that's still there of Wendy Williams when she addressed Tabitha Brown on on her show. Okay. And so I talked then about the fact that there are women who sometimes will definitely show what's brewing underneath by the way that they review and they speak about other people. The other person that I want to bring up, and I'm going to bring up separately, of course, is going to be Kevin Samuels. And and I've talked about Tasha K. I've talked about the Cardi B situation. I've talked about a lot of people on, and held a lot of people accountable on this channel. And that's kind of what I do. But I want to speak to some of the things that lead to those behaviors, if you will. So if you think about it, um, the type of people that we are, just in our core sense of us being human. We're people who rely on confirmation, some type of confirmation when it comes to us moving into spaces. So before you decide that you want to go on social media and you want to talk on social media about a subject, before you decide that you want to go to a party, and attend a party where friends are going to be there, but also new people are going to be there, before you make a decision to go and apply for a job, even, you have to have a very secure sense of self that says that you will thrive in those environments that you're making a conscientious decision to place yourself in. Now, insecurities are what guide and shape your ability to cognitively come into a place of making proper discernment or a proper decision as it applies to those things. So if you have a really secure sense of self and you're like, I work really well with other people, and this job requires that a person is, teamwork oriented and a person who leans and depends on other folks to get things done and very inclusive. That's the way they are. So I'm a really good fit for this position. If you have insecurities that tell you that you're not quite good enough, when you step into that position, you will have a sense of feeling like, I'm a bit of an imposter, or what they call imposter syndrome. It's a psychological term that we use to refer to people who steps into places and they kind of have that fake it till you make it thing. Okay. Now, what happens when you're a fake it till you make it person, as as a way of you having these insecurities that are abrupt and they show you their faces, is you step into these places and you are looking constantly for confirmation around you, but not from within you, right? So what happens is when you step into those places, you start doing and reviewing and acting in a way that pleases those people around you versus what is in alignment with what or who you say, incongruent with who you say you are and who you feel you're becoming. We see that in many of these content creators that I just mentioned. And I mentioned those content creators for a reason. I think that the vast majority of you saw me and, kind of took notice of me or light of me when you saw I did a feature on Money Boy Trey's channel, Toxic Masculinity. And I talked about, let me tell you guys my mindset when I went on there first. Let's go back. The first thing is I didn't know that his channel was Toxic Masculinity because I said I was new to YouTube. Okay, don't make fun of me because I really don't care. I had no idea that was the name of his show or his platform, his channel. I thought that was the name of the episode. So I thought that that was the subject that we were going to discuss. Why did I come on while he was talking about Kwame Brown? Because Kwame Brown is a person who, in that seat of his life, in that space of his life, not only was he exposing toxicity in the way that men have encompassed masculinity in the Black community, but also toxicity within the male constraints just by in and of itself. So whether they were white, black, other, and different, whatever, he exposed Kwame Brown's rants, if you will, exposed what it looks like for men to be toxic in the way that they are around one another, even in becoming adult men in the industry of sports. Okay. And so I felt like that was a very needed thing. However, the way he decided to do it as he moved into YouTube was extremely hostile. It was toxic, and it was the becomings of extremely narcissistic personality traits. Right. As a result, he's clearly connected to a person, directly connected to a person, or has branched off from a person with extreme narcissistic traits. Tommy Sotomayor. Okay. And at the heart of people who suffer with narcissistic personality disorder and those people who just encompass a tremendous amount of those traits are insecurities. It's this very soft, fragile person underneath sense of self that has been broken, traumatized, time and time and time again. And as a result of that traumatization and what that looked like in that space, they typically go along to get along. And that's something that Kwame Brown constantly talks about, right? Until they don't. Hey, Black Anonymous, how are you? We're talking about insecurities and the benefits of insecurities and looking at it from a psychological perspective, but also reviewing how it applies to the various content creators on YouTube and how it can apply to people, because I feel like content, and the reason that I'm using content creators because I feel like that's relatable content. You guys can relate to a content creator and feel like they're more of a regular person before you can a bigger celebrity that is not a content creator, if that makes sense. So they're in reach, they're reachable, right? Um, and so we tend to think of those people as kind of like lay people of the world, whether they're big on YouTube or small on YouTube. And we're going to talk about the grandiosity, the whole big component, right? Or perceived big component as well. So when we're the key feature of those people who struggle with actual narcissistic personality disorder is that those people typically have a grandiose sense of self, in some way, right? And so what I like to say is inferiority complex is a more appropriate reference for those types of people, because people with an inferiority complex, though they may be in some senses in society, in the norms of society, below or beneath other people, whether it's financial, whether it's relational, whatever it may be, status wise, they have an innate need to place themselves above other people. So there is a constant theme around social comparison. And I've been leading up to this discussion in my last couple of lives because I asked you guys the question various times, like, why do you feel like you need to continuously keep comparing yourself to other people, and as a result of comparing yourself to other people, step into a place where you now feel worthy? Okay, your comparisons in life, if they are healthy, because Cynthia G talked about this on her channel about, what was it, yesterday, day before yesterday? She talked about this on her channel when she was in, and for those of you who don't know much about Cynthia G, because I know I haven't done my official review on her yet, but believe me, it's coming. um she is a content creator who entered YouTube with the intent of empowering women in some way, or being the voice of women, and as it relates to the insults, direct insults to women, as around weave and that kind of stuff. Okay. Now, I'm not going to say wearing weave is a bad thing. I'm not even going to say having the perspective that other people are trash bag dusties, struggle dusties, whatever. I don't know, is a bad thing. What I am going to say, however, is it's really important that we tread very lightly when we find ourselves internally in turmoil as it applies to comparisons with others. So what I saw from, you said you haven't watched her yet? No worries. I'm definitely going to play some content in just a bit. But what I saw from Cynthia G and her come up, and what I've seen from Kevin Samuels and his come up, and what I've seen from Umar Johnson and his, I'm not really sure what I want to call it, but what I've seen from Boyce Watkins, what I've seen from all of those people, right, is that the level of toxicity that comes into play when we start seeing where things become problematic are typically due to social comparisons. And many times those social comparisons come by way of their followers pressuring them to do certain types of or review certain types of content and push certain type of content out there. What I've seen develop over the course of time in my observations of Cynthia G is that she's become more and more discontent with life and her situation since she first came to YouTube. And that's unfortunate. Or is it? What do you guys think? What are your thoughts? I'm gonna put up this video. The other thing that I've seen though, I've seen some people remain pretty healthy and sound on YouTube. One of them I spoke of, which is Tabitha Brown. She's pretty much remained pretty solid for the most part, and she's not, you don't see her sacrificing her sense of self or her internal peace components or any of that to appease the rest of the world around her, because I think that she spent enough of her life coming into a place to where she had to be forced to realize, you know what, I'm not meant to fit in. I'm not built to fit in. And as a result of accepting that piece and realizing that I'm better than that, because that's what I want to impress upon you guys. Sometimes, okay, Lisa, sometimes you have to realize that you're greater than and you're better than what's right there in front of you. Right? Because sometimes we will miss our opportunities for maturation and our growth if we're focused on the chaos around us. And oftentimes we're the creators of that said chaos. Nobody else is creating our chaos but us. So we have to step into opportunities where we have the potential to grow. And we have to do so knowing that there is something, sorry, there is something in that opportunity that can be helpful for us or to us. So Miss Sandy says Cynthia G is toxic. I haven't seen that one yet. Okay, so who else do you guys view as toxic before I finish my content review component? Miss Sandy, don't you support a large amount of what Kevin Samuels subscribes to? And I am going somewhere with this because Kevin Samuels is a person, Umar Johnson is a person. All of these people are people, even Tommy Sotomayor and Kwame Brown. Okay, so Kwame Brown is a person who, for a large majority, and it's interesting because even when I gave my review on him before I knew a lot about him interpersonally, right, about his the personhood of him, I only reviewed the kind of surface things that already kind of screamed there is a certain picture being painted about the guy, right? You said yes because Kevin Samuel speaks the truth. Okay. So when I did my review on Money Boy Trey's channel, right, on this toxic masculinity show, I spoke to the fact that his means of stepping into a place, the place that he was, um are very, those means and the way that he decided to do that and continue to push and push and push are very narcissistic in presentation. One of the main reasons was because you could definitely see the insecurities. You can see that he has a history of some types of trauma um in the industry, in his profession, where obviously these people that he's now targeting, he needs support in order for him to feel heard, or validated, even because there are things that he knew that other people would not know. And it's not that he wasn't being honest. Oftentimes, when you see narcissistic personality components present, people are 100% honest. They're just very abrasive because they've had such a traumatic past, that they've been hurt so many times in such a detrimental way that they're going to be overly aggressive when they do present with that information, but they're going to get even more aggressive as soon as they start to gain fire underneath them. So what that means is they're getting more people to vie on with them and support them in their claims against another person, okay, or a group of people. That's what you see from Kevin Samuels as well. And the thing, and it doesn't make Kwame Brown a bad person per se. Doesn't make Tommy Sotomayor a bad person per se. It doesn't make any of them bad people. But the problem is when we find ourselves getting twisted into that cycle, right? And the cycle never lets up and it becomes a part of our becoming. That's when the diagnosis starts to fit. So that acute stress as a result of whatever oppression or suppression, whatever that is, can lead to those personality deficits, leading to a personality disorder diagnosis. So, you know, it's about, and I think that that's what leads to the suspicions as well. So you said this just sound like ad hominem attacks to me, and that's fine. Oftentimes, when we feel validation in the things that other people say to us, around us, about us, or things that we believe in and we believe heavily in, we're oftentimes very easily shaken, easily moved, easily bothered, right? And very easily offended in that. And on this channel, we're 100% about accountability. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a bad person or you're a good person or anything. I'm pretty indifferent. Hey Lisa, glad to have you back. You said you didn't say. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Okay, so you didn't say anything that he said was wrong. So I'm not talking about context right now. Context really isn't important. So the thing about diagnosing and the psychological component of things is that the context isn't really important. The presentation, however, of symptoms, behaviors, that's what's important. So to get back to what I was saying, so when we're looking at the way that people's behaviors are manifesting as a result of these negative exposures that traumatize them, the consistency in said behaviors, regardless of what changes, right? And the consistency of that same energy. Remember, we talked about that energy being very, very strong, very hostile in presentation. And I mean, sometimes it's reasonably so. If we look at Kwame Brown, what else could a person expect? Like, on so many levels. It makes you just look at it makes you look at sports in a different way. And I mean, I'm a huge football fan, definitely not a fan of basketball, but I probably will never even tune into a basketball game again now. Like, I just probably won't. Um but so I feel like when we know the history for sure about people and we can inform what shapes those said behaviors that, definitely make the claims to the diagnosis sufficient. I think that that's when people and us, we can be a better advocate. We can be a better support group for those people going through the things that they're going through, and help them become a better version of themselves. So, comparisons that lead to detriment to people. We're going to take a look briefly at this video, and you guys tell me what you think here.
exposed, their self-hatred is being exposed, the disdain they have for the womb they came from is being exposed, their deceit is being exposed, the fact that they've always been helping to oppress their women and selling out their people is being exposed. So there's a lot being exposed, and Black men are very resistant to this exposure because at the end of the day, it's going to affect their options. They are the one group of men who have no resources but have such a reprobate mind that they really believe that all women should, number one, sit quietly and take their abuse, and number two, continue to engage in the one-sided loyalty that Black women tend to engage in. Do you guys know how much content I get from subscribers? Because I get a lot of content, and because I get so much content, I have to actually filter through the content that I get. And contrary to popular belief among struggle dusty trash bag bandits,
Stupid asshole. That's why your baby ugly, your sister can't get her tooth tied to your mama on, bitch. That's why your kids ugly, hoe. They ain't gonna be shit, they dad ain't shit, and bitch, you ain't shit. It's your piss asshole. Fuck wrong with you, bitch. I'll be wrong if I come over there and hit you on your shit, bitch. Fuck wrong with you. Oh no, I ain't got nowhere to go, bitch. You wanna put me out in the streets and shit, bitch. I'll bust your motherfucking head, bitch.
I don't do content on every single case that I see involving a Black man, either sending his preference to meet her maker, sending a Black woman to meet her maker, denying children that he has had, being manipulative, being abusive, both verbally and physically, and just engage in an overall depravity that they don't want to acknowledge, and they want the Black community not to acknowledge. And when I say Black community, I do mean the women and children and the Black men who are actually worth something, which is very few and far in between. What the collective of Black men want is to engage in depravity and degeneracy undetected and unchecked. That is what they want. There is something evil residing in them. And I don't say that because I think that people should go out and express hatred towards them. I think it's because you really need to understand that you've been lied to about Black men forever. I've been lied to them. I had to go do the research. I talk about this all the time, especially when it comes to the unwillingness of other Black women to understand who and what they're dealing with, because a lot of Black women still have their blinders on, despite seeing the condition of the community, despite not seeing Black men advocate for them, despite.
Okay, so what are you guys thinking? I'm gonna show you another one. But I wanted you to kind of have an opportunity to look at that first, right? And take a listen so you can see where this is going. And I'm talking about the particular behaviors, and then I want to be able to display the different content creators engaging in the type of behavior that I'm talking about, so you guys can see exactly what that looks like when it's modeled. So that was the Cynthia G um clip. Let's go to this one. Give me just a sec. I'm gonna share this other one, and believe it or not, I'm pretty sure you guys don't know who it is once you see it. But you know, people make drastic changes out here in these streets. Talk about women in the weave. Let's do it.
What up, Style is Life? Tonight, guys, we got a good stream tonight.
And I'm gonna point out something else
Uh,
about
if
this one.
you
Hey, Faith,
read
how are you?
my impromptu live stream, I like to do these impromptu.
Okay, so give me a sec. I'm gonna point out another thing really quickly. I want to point out when this was done, how many views it got. One sec. But more importantly, okay, this guy, he's honest. So these are, of course, some avid followers of Kevin Samuels, right? So I want you guys to just pay attention to these comments, especially this one. His eye contact has improved by leaps and bounds. So when we talk about, I hate to say it, when we talk about the pathology of a person who has narcissistic personality disorders and a person who definitely has antisocial personality disorder, these are the things that we're looking towards, okay? And now I want you to look at these comments, because remember what I told you guys about having people to push you, to support you, to make you feel valid. You see, these are comments 4 years ago. So there is, this is his first video stepping outside of the confines of his previous mindset, where he's moving only in reaction or response to the trauma. Okay. So this is what I want to show you guys first. Let's go back up here in his description of self. Okay. And then I want you to pay attention, like he's always obviously had a problem with remembering the ideals that he's trying to push, because they were not confident, intelligent, assertive versus his lips. When his lips talked about what it is that he was trying to convey in his message, he used the words confident, intelligent, and arrogant, because he was definitely referring to himself. Arrogance is definitely grandiose behavior, and he was stepping into the highlight of his narcissism then. So give me just a sec. I'm going to go down here so you guys can see. Okay, here it is. I want you guys to pay close attention to what his description says. Welcome to my live stream, where we discuss all things from fashion to fragrance. Fashion to fragrance. Turn on notifications to make sure you can catch all live streams, including the impromptu sessions. This is going to be fun. Enjoy. So this was his default message as he was going live on YouTube. I'm sure you guys know about the default messages, okay? If I were to pull up some of my default messages from when I first joined YouTube, the content's pretty consistent, okay? Why? Because I have the same passion as I had from day one, even though I wasn't really on YouTube then, had way too many patients and not any space to spread myself out. And family was more pressing then, people graduating and things like that. So what I'm saying is consistency around over, the course of time, consistency when it comes to your sense of self has a lot to do with balanced personality traits versus untethered personality traits due to insecurities. So let me go ahead and play this video. I'm not going to continue to talk you guys to death. Let me let you see some of the behaviors yourself.
I'm two lives. I do. I gotta admit, I really do. I like doing impromptu lives because, you get the cats who really are down for the channel, get to come in and see what's going on. Especially streams like this. Streams like this where I get to be myself and you get to learn more about me. So, this stream is going to be a lot different, So, if you read the title, it says, How to Get the Woman You Want. Join the CIA. CIA. What does CIA mean? CIA is a term, this little acronym I use. Confident, intelligent, arrogant. Or you can just say cocky, infuriating asshole. So let me just throw out some disclaimers and stuff while we start getting people into the channel. understand something clear. I am not MGTOW. Uh, I'm just a man. However, I have taken the red pill. With that being said, I love women. I love women. I love beautiful women. I love, yeah, yeah. We're going to talk about women tonight. We're going to talk about my experiences with women, what experiences that I know have made me successful with women, and some of the misconceptions I had about women that got me twisted up. And when I got rid of them, I start just, man, I'm not going to edit that much. I'm not going to cuss a lot, but I start getting laid like left and right. So let's start off with the stuff that I was taught as a young boy. I was raised in a single parent household. My mom had two sisters. They didn't have any kids. So I had three women around me all the time. My grandfather, he was a truck driver, so he was around sometime. Then my uncle, he was the man in my life. So my grandfather was a deacon in the church, and my uncle was a Mac. A Mac is a dude that has lots of women, but he's not a pimp. He don't got any women on the stroll.
All right. So, did you guys listen? Did you hear that? Did you hear? So, I just want you where's Miss Sandy? So, here are your facts. When I said that I vet things very carefully, and when I said that I was thorough when it comes to the diagnostic lens and what I see in people, I was serious. So it's really important for me to be able to show you people, everybody actually, how it is that you can recognize these traits and characteristics in other folks. Hey Liz, how are you? We're watching the origin of Kevin Samuels, and we're watching the living proof of all of the details that I've given you guys thus far, but now coming from his mouth. And mind you, I have not watched this video prior to today. Okay. Okay. So everything that I've talked to you guys about where his insecurities stem from, his hatred for black women stem from, his hatred for women who are primary parent women stems from all of these things, okay? And how he also has a tendency to give more respect to whores or sex worker women than he does your regular layperson woman. So I told you guys that these are things that he's learned from the over the course of time. His insecurities developed from childhood. So he hasn't been careful enough, I guess. The thing is, many folks who are narcissistic will forget that they have these types of receipts out here floating in these streets. But let's continue to watch.
Both got game. My father was a straight up player. Papa was a Rolling Stone. 13 of us I think. So I used him as the blueprint of everything not to be in a dude. My mom never talked bad about him, but needless to say, I didn't have the best opinion of the dude. Handsome dude. Me and my father me and my father are probably look more like than any of his other kids. That's probably one of the reasons we have such issues we have. We're probably so much alike. So anyway, that being said, I was raised by a bunch of women. I was raised Baptist. So I was pretty much raised to be a simp. I was raised to be a simp. I was a cute little boy. I was a spoiled kid. Even though we was broke, I was spoiled for broke. So as I started to grow up, the only time I interacted with boys was in high school. At school, and that was only during in class time. I had my cousins and stuff around. So this is not probably unlike a lot of you guys. And I'm gonna answer some questions later. But if you really want to get your questions answered, throw them up on Super Chat. All right. So when you grow up with all those women around you, you get raised with feminine ideals. And this is the time in the 70s when you're hearing all this, I am woman, hear me roar, and I am strong, I will survive, and all this other kind of stuff. In the 70s, women taught their sons, be nice to women, respectful, all that other kind of stuff. And then they turn around and taught their daughters, go out and, get your education, get your degree, take care of yourself, don't rely on no men. So you end up with a whole generation of, soft men and hard women. So I get to around, my first crush, that's another story for another time. But the first time I really liked the chick, I'm gonna just call her, I'm gonna just call her, I'm gonna just call her Car. I like this chick. And like most simps, when I liked the chick, I did the simp stuff. I immediately start paying a lot of attention to her, telling her all the stuff I like, fawning after, running behind her, young boy stuff. I was in like the 6th, 7th grade. Long and short of it, every chick that I ever liked, I automatically start simping for. Now, here's the thing. I have girls that liked me, but I could, man up for them because I wasn't interested. But as soon as my feelings started getting involved, it was almost like I became a woman. So let me fast forward. What happened with Car? Car ended up, she was my girlfriend, check the box, and you'd be like, yes and no. We're like in 8th grade by this time. You know, and like most simps, she got tired of me like that. So she broke up, broke my little heart, shattered me, destroyed me. No men around, didn't know what to do. No one really talked to. Somebody talked about this stuff in the 80s. So luckily, testosterone kicked in. And then this chick I was calling left and right. This is back when you call people and you get a busy signal. The stuff we used to have to do on the phone, you get the busy signal call back. There was no caller ID, man, it was crazy. So anyway, after my testosterone kicked in, I got pissed off at this chick. Oh man, I got to a point where I got over her. Well, I ran into her the next year in 10th grade. 10th grade. Ran into her in 10th grade. She remembered the simp version of me. I grew 9 inches over the summer. So I went from being 5 feet tall, roughly in 8th grade, to 5'9" in 3 months.
All right. So I hope you guys are having fun. Hope you guys are here for the ride. Are you guys now taking note of how we got to the Kevin Samuels catastrophe that we now see today, from his very beginning, and how narcissistic personality disorder comes into play in human beings? Anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask them. I'm gonna, if you guys want the link, I could definitely do that. You said I'll watch the replay in the morning. Gotta get up, ready for bed. Gotta get up at 4 a.m. Awesomeness, awesomeness. So it says it sounded like he kept the same talking points but self-reflected. There are dozens of content creators who change strategies. No. So his content, maybe you missed the point of me reviewing. Let me go back. I love this. So I'm gonna go and you too, Lisa, get yourself some rest. So I want you to look right here. You see the highlighted part? Welcome to my live stream where we discuss all things from fashion to fragrance. Fashion to fragrance. So this is your guy Kevin Samuels 4 years ago when he first got started, and he wanted to talk about fashion and fragrance. And actually, this is a cut above. This is after he had been started a while, because he initially started, he was in his car, and the background included some old chimney in a living room of somebody's probably rent a room situation. But hey, it's not my business. I'm just here for the facts and accountability. Okay. So now we get from a guy who's giving you all of the history as to how he came into his very deep seated insecurities that led to him becoming a narcissist in his reactions, responses, everyday interactions with other people, and very much so antisocial, or what we call a sociopath. So he has a problem with sitting with other people, listening to other perspectives that are not his, because he has quarrels not only with his mother, because apparently he's he made it very clear that he wanted to not become his father because he had quarrels with his father, but he has become his father by being intentional in his intents as to not become his father. That's typically how the brain works, just to let you guys know, so there are no lingering questions. When you put too much intention into a thing and you're trying to stop that thing, that's why you engage in it. That's why various people who are trying to diet, right? That's why the diets fail after a while and you end up gaining the weight back after a while, simply because it's just the way that your brain is set up. Okay. It's only wired towards intention, not disintent. So that's that part. So Kevin Samuel speaks very heavily to some of the things that shaped his insecurities here, and he had no idea that that's what he was doing. At this point, Kevin had no idea that he would be stepping into a whole new realm of presenting himself on the internet, covering content on the internet. He had a handful of subscribers then, okay? He wasn't even monetized. But let's go to because that point's proven. Let's just kind of go and you guys will have to excuse me. We're gonna go through a couple of content creators that I'm talking about, and we're gonna look at all of their stuff. Okay, so I know I showed you guys one of Cynthia G's videos already. We're gonna now go to another video really quickly. Surprise, surprise. Buckle your seatbelt for this one.
To come up here. I can't get you up here, but if you can get up here, we can make this happen.
Right.
So I said, Chicago, that's the second largest black city. I got to handle this.
Yeah.
So I went up there, we did the interview, and it's amazing. It's interesting how destiny works because he only had one copy of the DVD of
He
the
called
interview.
it destiny.
Yeah.
And I said, I need a copy of that. I
Yeah.
just needed a copy. I didn't know why, but I said, I needed a copy of that. He said, this is my only one. But he said, you know what? I'm going to give it to you because I can get another one next week.
Yeah.
So he gave me that DVD. Had he not given me that DVD, we may not even be here now, because what happens is 3 weeks later, I speak in New York City for the first time, Harlem.
Right.
Now, I've spoken in New York before, but it was strictly for the Garvey movement, never a public lecture of my own.
Right.
So at the National Black Theater, 125th and 5th, I brought copies of the Chicago interview. So you see, these are the two largest black cities.
Right.
And so when it comes to my rise within black consciousness, I really have to hang my hat on the support I got from New York City and Chicago.
Yeah.
Because it was the Chicago interview and then the New York lecture. Once I did that lecture, I'll never forget it. October 30th, 2010. It was the night before Halloween. It was a nice turnout. But I didn't think nothing of it. I'm just doing what I do, you know, giving the information out. And literally, brother, when I tell you within 48 hours, I was a household name.
Wow.
Within 48 hours, I was a household name. Like my phone was just ringing nonstop. 2011 came. I think I did an interview at least once every day for 365 days.
Wow.
It caught me by surprise.
Yeah.
I was in Philly working as a school psychologist, doing my thing. And then the invitation started coming. And I said, okay, you got to make a decision because this is taking you away from your practice.
Right.
You know, I evaluate children for special ed. I can't do that and travel.
Right.
So I decided to sacrifice the testing and do the traveling. And it was a good decision because I was able to help push the message, not only the Pan-African message, but also the school to prison pipeline message, to tell parents, stop getting your children tested, stop putting them on Ritalin, stop buying into these diagnoses because they're not solutions. They are feeding the school to prison pipeline.
Right. And I mean, that's been one of your strong messages, and I tapped into it pretty early, just based off of feeling like I was almost a part of that pipeline, somebody that, you know, second grade diagnosed with ADHD, and, you know, my family was challenged to put me on some type of medication, but otherwise they gave me some.
I really want you guys
they gave me another type of
hold
test.
on. So I want you guys to really pay attention to this part and Umar's response to this part. Okay.
Okay.
That I actually scored the third highest in the nation.
Woo.
And then so from that process of thinking like something might be wrong with this child, it then
Mhm.
implemented me into the GATE program in California with the
Mhm.
Gifted and Talented Education.
Absolutely.
And from there, you know, even my grandmother having that foresight, that man, maybe if we challenge him,
Mhm.
you know, and
Mhm.
he won't act out in that certain way. So
Mhm.
beginning to getting me involved in everything from, you know, other languages and
Mhm.
music, and for there, it's like it's a simple concept for me.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of us we don't have learning disabilities, but we're so far advanced
Absolutely.
in our understanding and our movement that we're just not challenged.
Absolutely. In fact, you just basically explain what's really going on with black boys and so-called ADHD. It's not an overactive brain, it's above average intelligence.
Yeah.
You see, the issue is that public school is not designed to identify black boys who are gifted. The gifted movement was started in the aftermath of school desegregation, 1954,
Mm.
to resegregate black kids from white kids. So after the Supreme Court said you can't use race to separate the students anymore, white power said, well, we need a new excuse.
Right.
So they invented the mentally gifted movement.
Right.
So instead of saying we're putting the black child in a separate class or putting the white child in a separate class because they're black or white, we're excluding the white kid from the black class because they're too intelligent. So it's not about race.
Wow.
It's about intelligence.
Right.
So MG became the new strategy to
Mm.
resegregate the students.
Wow.
You see.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if we're using giftedness,
Man. So are you guys listening? You guys had enough yet? Okay, so if we're looking at how what happens over the course of time as people are shaping and reshaping perceptions around the issues around them, their personal interactions with these systems shape their reality. And so whenever you're engaged in things, remember I said go along to get along, essentially it's a fake it till you make it. So the thing is, you learn to be complicit with the world and the situation around you. Okay. And so you have a guy here who speaks about his upbringing and the proper channels that he went through in his becoming as a kid, and then going to college and being exposed to certain things while he was struggling with identity at a very pivotal time in his life, apparently several different times, and how he reshaped his perceptions and reshaped and found other things to gravitate towards, to hold on to find out, okay, you know what? This makes me feel good about myself. This tells me who I am. And as a result, I'm going to make up what it takes for me to link it all together. Even when, I know, right, Liz? Even when you have Nick Cannon saying to him, well, I was tested for ADHD, and then my teacher, same white system, oppressive system that he's pushing, he didn't even realize that this is happening. That was the interesting thing to me. But the same system that he's pushing to be against black people, Nick Cannon is clearly black. He didn't come from any money. Okay. And he was tested for the gifted program because obviously a teacher saw more than trauma in Nick Cannon. So hyperactivity can be the trauma is definitely there. He has attachment trauma. He talked to that, okay? But it can affect people in different ways. Some people can be extremely exuberant and vibrant in the way that they manage their trauma, and some people can be extremely depressive and suggestive and very manipulative in the way that they manage their trauma. So we have to be careful and wise about who's presenting their insecurities how. So who's intact with their insecurities. So being aware or cognizant of your insecurities allows you to be able to be seated in living out your best life without affecting the other people around you with the toxicity that develops as a result of you not being aware of said insecurities. Tanya TKO is another person who is an exemplary idea of what toxicity looks like in a female. You hear her have conversations talking about resting in one's femininity and all of that. Exactly what is it that she's trying to say when she says these things? I think that what it goes towards, and I got another video that I'm going to show you guys in just a moment, but what this goes towards is the way that you have decided to move away from the realities of the life that you live in, and the realities are sometimes too difficult for us to live in, and so we decide to, you know what, placate a bit. We're not going to call a thing. We're just going to act like it's not a thing. And if we step in it and the thing is shit, then we'll just step in another direction and maybe put a little water hose on and wash the shit off and continue to walk and hope that nobody else saw it. But the moment that someone else saw it or smells it or indicates that it was there, it triggers us. And that emotional instability in moods is a direct reflection of that. So that's the reason that you saw Umar Johnson go on these tangents. You see Kevin Samuels go on these tangents where he's emotionally reactive and he's very disrespectful to the people who follows him if they do not agree with him, even now that he's trying to reposition himself so he doesn't appear to be so arrogant and like a narcissist. If you guys listen to the Kwame Brown interview that Tasha K did, I'm sure you guys saw the Kevin Samuels interview that she did. When I say that Tasha K is an amazing interviewer, she may have misstepped in the way that she covered that Cardi B stuff, but let me tell you, interviewing could probably be her thing. Even forensic interviewing, okay? Like literally, having a misstep is one thing, but coming full circle in the light of and the highlight of your growth and your maturation, friggin' amazing. You got to celebrate the woman. Okay. Says reshaping your perceptions isn't indicative to narcissistic behavior. Okay. So I never said that. What I said was repositioning himself doesn't allow him to mask the narcissistic characteristics of him being grandiose, nor does it allow him to mask the antisocial personality disorder characteristics of him not giving two shits about anybody else's opinions, anybody else's narratives, and anybody else's right to their lived truth, whether it is aligned in alignment or disalignment with his. And those are also conflictually both narcissistic and antisocial personality characteristics. Sociopath is what an antisocial personality person is. But he's very forceful with his views. He's very reactive emotionally. He's very disrespectful and degradous to Black women who are the target of his insults because of his own failed lifestyle over the course of time. And even as he was stepping in into his transition and, you know, definitely living that whole imposter syndrome until he could get to where he was going, he's now even more grandiose and stepped into and seated himself in a whole nother level of imposter syndrome by way of saying, okay, I'm this type of person and I'm this relationship expert and relationship coach and all this stuff, when that's not what it is. Because apparently he's still struggling on his sense of self. Need I go back and play that entire video? I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look at the whole video. Let's do that before I jump to the next one. But I always say, you know, elevation, information, education, insight leads to maturation in one's growth. You have to decide what it is that you're going to do with your maturation at the different phases of your life where you're responsible for shaping and reshaping behaviors based off of what life teaches you. And how you step into that space definitely is highly dependent upon whether or not you have acknowledged some of the insecurities and where they exist and how they exist in your life. So, not by way of not acknowledging the insecurities, my sweetheart, it does not make it disappear. It's still there. What happens is you become more grandiose. And as a result, you become more delusional and more transient in those delusions. And as a result of doing that, you develop these types of behaviors and they end up being more self-injurious than not, because you expose yourself to situations that you know could be very dangerous. I think that when Kevin Samuels bought the woman that he bought, and you guys heard about his history with women even after not the marriage, but you're talking about dating women right here. So I think what happens is you see that he's developed his mindsets around the uncle and his behaviors with women, his positioning in life, what Kevin Samuels perceived looked like success in life. That's where he gets the idea of money from. His hatred for women, especially single women, from the fact that he was very much voiceless in a household filled with women, which is why he refers to it that way. Men who have a very secure sense of self, especially given the fact that his mother never spoke negatively about his father, those men who would have a very secure sense of self would acknowledge the fact that, yes, I was raised in a single parent household. However, my mother was the highlight of my life. She taught me so many things, and I felt validated in my position in becoming a man, even though my father was not adequately in my life or engaged fully, or whatever the situation is. So you said, so the women that call Kevin's show isn't delusional, aren't delusional, I think is what you're looking for. But I'm not here to talk about the women who calls Kevin Samuel's show. I'm only talking about the content creators, their insecurities, and what seeds the types of behaviors that they adopt as they become more narcissistic in presentation as a means, as a way to appease the audience who's viewing them, and how the content, contributes to those maladaptive means of coping with distress, the venting. And instead of them dealing with those issues that have come about as a result of them being exposed to heavy hostility and people judging them constantly and looking at them and presenting them, how they adopt whatever it is that the content is the content that they're creating is not, in order to appease the people who are watching them, right? So they adopt practices like Kevin Samuels, for example. He adopts the practices of degrading women and talking about women in a negative way because the content that he presented initially and that he stuck by and built his YouTube by, hence we see right here in his own description, fragrance and fashion. Okay. These are this guy's words. So if you have any issues, of course, you need to take him to him because he's the godfather, right? Even calling himself the godfather of anybody is grandiose. So there are a lot of things there that are congruent. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to watch some more of Kevin Samuels so that Miss Sandy can get what she needs from, or he needs from, or they need from this content. Hey, what's going on, Stranger Talk Live?
3 inches over, 9 inches over the summer. Incredible. So all of a sudden I'm Big Willie.
So now he's speaking to how his height qualified him to position himself and reposition himself in this fight, if you will, with this woman who made him feel small. So we're going to continue to look at the becomings of the narcissist right now. Once
sudden, these that chick that I used to like, who I simped out for, all of a sudden she was throwing herself at me. But I didn't care no more. So she called me and I wouldn't answer the phone, or I'd talk to her and I'd just blow her off. I learned something right here. This is almost like a laboratory experiment because I'm a strategic minded person, technical minded person. I start putting this stuff through scientific process. If nice got me bad behavior, bad seemed to get me good behavior. So I started being more bad. Here's what I learned. The worse I treated women, the more they liked me. Now let me make the caveat. It was called worse. What it really was is I was treating women like a man treats a woman. That's what I was doing. I wasn't being a simp. I was standing up. I was saying what I wanted, was not making any qualifying statements, not beating around the bush. If it was my way or the highway, you lucky to be around me. This is what I want out of the world. Next thing you know, she became everything I ever wanted her to be in a girlfriend after I started being a jerk to her, a cocky, intelligent.
Any other questions, Miss Sandy? I can only take the guy for his word. So basically, what you heard him say in his own words, not mine, is that he learned that when he was a dick and he degraded a woman, he could make her feel small enough to mold her into what he wanted her to be. That is literally what gaslighting does. That is what a narcissist does in the very core of their fabric of being. I did say that you guys could ask any questions at any point, but please believe me that when I tell you on this channel we're here for accountability, and when I tell you that on this channel we vet people properly before we have these discussions, and that on this channel accountability, I'm here for it. So, in order to help you guys how to better identify what is going on with these particular content creators as they're stepping into these spaces where they're, you know, becoming the imposter of sorts, and they're trying to seat themselves as to where they're going prematurely, sometimes people can be extremely balanced and can be extremely put together, and they can stay consistent in their content creating. um I've been that way for quite some time. Okay. So YouTube and nothing else can change my directionality. I have no intentions on, and I will not degrade a black man to sacrifice or to put myself up above him. Right. So I'm not going to sacrifice the contents of my character just to appease people who are watching my content. That's absolutely absurd. I'm here for accountability. So I will point out the things that black men and black women do, and other people do, that perpetuate the negative cycles of behaviors and interactions that black people tend to engage in as it relates to the culture and self, right, and one another. So I think what you're seeing is that he's coming into that personality disorder as he's basically regurgitating his pathway. He's coming into that behavior by way of realizing that there are benefits to gaslighting. Okay. You said, would you consider Derek Jackson a narcissist? If so, where was all this energy when he was depreciating men to uplift women? It's in my content on my original social media where I used to do that. So in my I'm originally just a Facebooker. I have over 25,000 followers on Facebook. So Facebook is typically where I come from. But I am a doctor. I do have a practice, and I am seeing my patients consistently. So once there was a way for me to actually build a YouTube by way of just streaming one time instead of having to go to all of them. Hello, StreamYards. Yeah, that's why I branched out to YouTube. But so I reviewed Derek Jackson's content long before he ever got caught. And we talked about those behaviors, and we talked about the way that he regards men and women, all that good stuff. So I've been doing this for years. Welcome to the show. So you say women don't appreciate nice guy only when they hit the wall, and all simps not trying to simp for them no more. You know what, Rush? I think that you do have a very interesting idea, because I think that that's what he's getting to. So, without further ado, let's get back to the show.
and arrogant. That's what I was told. It was cocky, intelligent, arrogant. So I got these battling things going on inside me. So here's what ends up happening. You know, we going to.
Okay. Now he called CIA. I told you guys it was coming. I told y'all it was coming. So he says cocky, intelligent, arrogant from his mouth. Did everybody hear that? We're going to go to what he defined it as here. He has no choice in certain circumstances when he starts to continue to go on and on and on, but to speak his truth, which is why he's so careful in the way that his mannerisms are and his speech tone and reflection are as well. So if you look, he's much more natural saying those things than he was in the very beginning trying to quote confident, intelligent, and assertive. Okay. And confidence, intelligence, and assertiveness are great qualities in an actual man, a real man. You know, just using you guys' lingo. But men who have gone through the process of maturation over the course of their growth have a high degree of all of these components. But arrogance is not the same. Confidence and arrogance have a very thin line between the line of, very thin line of delineation between the two. And I think that we have to be cognizant of which one is what and what's presenting when. A person who is confident will have the facts to back up an argument, right? A person who is arrogant will manipulate situations to make it look like the argument is valid, okay? And so it requires a lot more abrasive, approach and stuff like that. So let's go back and start looking at the rest of his story here.
Band trip, I smash. I still don't want to deal with her. I mean, I smash her, and I'm like, okay, well, I put this chick up on the pedestal, right? And she didn't want to have nothing to do with me. When I start treating her bad, like I was told was bad, put a caveat there. All of a sudden, she wanted to get with me. I smashed it. And then, but here's what happened. After I smashed, guess what? She smashed the dude I was rooming with.
Alpha males are confident.
So I saw right there, full force, female nature. I'm like, I put you up on a pedestal, treated you like a queen and a goddess or whatever. Here's how you treated me. I treat you like badly. You falling all over me, telling me everything I want, let me smash. Then you let this dude smash. Right then I learned women, what I was taught was wrong. Women do not want nice guys. What we've been taught is nice. Women want strong, secure, assertive men who know what they want. We have been told all our lives that this stuff is bad, and it's not. And you see even our young boys in school on Ritalin and all these other kind of drugs to really tamp down male behavior. I'm not going to go too far off into that, but I would just say this. I recorded a video today that I'm still wondering if I need to put it out on YouTube, because talking about men stuff can get you in a lot of trouble, but we ain't worried about that now. I'm talking to the guys who want to learn how to get the women you want. First thing you need to do is understand everything you've ever been taught is wrong. Women like jerks. What they're called jerks. Donald Trump is our president. You can like him or dislike him, whatever you, but a significant portion of the country voted for him, and a lot of women. Women like that kind of behavior. It is hard for a lot of, if you were born after 1970, that is hard to accept, because we were raised in a generation of equal rights. But you got to learn it. But at least for me and a lot of other guys, we got a chance to do some infield experiments on this stuff. So when I went to high school, when I went to college, I just let it all hang out. I had a girlfriend in high school who I turned around and simped for. So you was either simping or pimping. It was either one or the other. I went to college, and man, I was the biggest hoe on campus. They used to call me Hoven, Hoven. Why? Because he had all the hoes. Chicks that I would smash, And I was a dog. I mean, I was a player. I would tell her, look here, I'm not into no relationship. I ain't looking for no girlfriend. I just want to have some fun. You know, if you do it, if you ready.
Right. And then, right, Liz. And so I don't know what you're seeing, Miss Sandy. I guess, sometimes what happens is when we're looking for a particular thing, we only find the thing that we're looking for. Just to go through and say, because for me, when I looked for this video, like I said, I hadn't seen it before. I only saw a part of it, and I'm just not watching the entirety of the video with you guys. So you don't need a whole lot to see a whole lot to be able to play to what we've already concluded from who he is present day. So he's basically the exact same as how I've already clinically conceptualized him to be prior to me seeing this video. But more importantly, what we're seeing here is definitely, you're right, Liz. He's definitely hurt, and he's talking about his process of healing that hurt. And what's interesting is I don't even think that he's really taken notice of the fact that he has literally become the father that he decided that he didn't want to be. In so many ways, he's literally become his father. Also, when he talked about his uncle, goals and aspirations, people, be careful where you place value in the people that are modeling behavior in your life. Okay, that's all I got to say about that. Go ahead and hit the share button. Let's continue to watch.
To do that, cool. If not, you need to go ahead and bounce. Here's what ended up happening. They'd want to come over to my room for tutoring. So I tutor them. I tutored the hell out of them. Then what would happen? They would go back and tell their friends, he put it down. Guess what? Their friends would want to come by too. Yes, women. Women like sex. They like it more than we do. That's a video for another day. But a lot of the stuff men have been told was wrong. Nice guys finish last. I've been a nice guy. Every time I was a nice guy, I finished beyond last. I never even finished. When I was just a guy who just said, forget it, I'm going to just be this, I'm going to just be a jerk, a cocky, intelligent, arrogant, or when I was a CIA, the most success I've ever had with women. And that has been consistent from teenage to now. Right now, so I've had people ask me, where are your women at? Where are your women at? I got more than I can shake a stick at, but can't none of them hold me because I am busy doing this and I'm busy with my business. They love that. So how do you do it? First off, you got to understand something. You got to undo your programming. You got to undo your programming, guys, because we've been programmed to think, oh, hold the door open for women, be chivalrous. Women don't want all that. Number two, you can't take advice from married people. Married people are living a completely different life. That don't mean that they're bad. They're living a completely different life. Single people and married people have different motivations and different everything else. A married man is going to tell you different things because he has a wife. Women are the same. Women are the same. If you don't think, and if here's the thing, a lot of this stuff, even listening to it, some guys are thinking, man, that sounds harsh or rude or sexist. That's what we've been programmed. That's what we've been taught. We've been told that a man, being assertive, saying, approaching a woman, being straight up direct is a callous, arrogant thing to do. Well, guess what? I got more women that way than trying to be their friend. Anything else. When I would just walk up to a chick and say, look, I'm trying to go home with you tonight. What's up? After they get over the initial shock that somebody said that to them, you know what ended up happening? I went home with him that night. Put it down on her like she never had to put down on it before. Guess what? I didn't take her number. I gave her mine. Because I ain't going to call you and chase you. All this stuff is probably counter to your programming. They called you. They want you. Guys, we have to sit back and learn to reassert our manhood. And this is not a bad thing. This is actually a good thing. let me just get to the personal aspects of this. When guys are acting like men, my grades are better. I was performing better at work. My relationships are better. Testosterone was up because even your sense of manhood is fulfilled. When we are the nice guy, simpish acting, weak beta males, no man feels good being that way. That's why I say you can't listen to married men, because a lot of married men are been beta male. They don't want to hear it. But if you live by the term happy wife, happy life, like I did, I was a beta male in a marriage because that's what I was told and taught to be. And guess what? I ended up getting divorced because we had a 75% of divorces are filed by women. We've already went down the stats. Women don't want these things. So what I will do is I'm going to open it up for a few questions. Bottom line is this, guys. Women want guys who are confident. Women want guys who are self-assured. Women want guys borderline arrogant. I'm saying borderline, but they really do. They want arrogance. They want you to be cocky. They would rather you come up and say, I'm trying to get them draws. And you worried about, I'm not going to say that. A woman slapped me in the face. When was the last time you ever seen a woman slap somebody in the face? She ain't gonna slap you in the face. She probably gonna start getting moist. That's the point. You know, one time when I was in college, I let a bunch of sorority girls use my condo, and they had a sleepover. 40 sorority girls from 3 different schools came over and used my condo. I was upstairs in my bedroom for a night. They had it for I heard those women talking about men, and it was the first time since I was around my mom and her sisters, and I heard women talking about men. Women are far dirtier than we ever want to. We want to imagine them as these sweet, pure, innocent little creatures. Women are dirty, nasty, filthy. They like it raw. They was talking about sizes, shapes, colors, textures, taste. They get popcorn. The movie 50 Shades of Grey. Why is it so popular? A woman wants a man to take control and dominate. Yes. It was a complete twist for me. The first time a pretty girl approached me, I ran away. The prettiest girl transferred to our school. All the dudes trying to get her. I'm an attractive guy. She wanted me. I was younger, a year younger.
Okay, like I cannot continue to watch anymore. Yes, his body language definitely shows that he's unsure of his rhetoric, but also his body language continues to display that even now. So we're gonna go back to the video that I was showing you guys earlier with Cynthia G, so I can just do a really quick comparative analysis because I want you guys to be able to see what this whole thing really looks like when it unfolds. Okay, so we saw him, and I can go to the one, and we'll go to the one later with Cynthia G and her becomings. Okay.
Seeing all this violence that Black men are perpetuating, despite knowing that their communities are unsafe because of Black men. And then when you point out these facts, they'll gaslight you, they'll deflect, they'll tell you that you just want to bash them, they'll tell you that you hate them, no matter how many times you say that you don't hate them. And then they'll recruit a number of different Black male identified, Black male worshiping Black women to basically be their attack dogs. And now what's happening is that they're starting to treat their preferences, who realize that they got the same Black men that Black women get, the same exact way that they treat Black women.
If you've been considering homeschooling or feel your child is not thriving in public school, consider the Zyx
and when I upload new content. So let's get into this. So there is a woman by the name of Haley on TikTok, and you guys have seen the thumbnail. You see that this woman is the prototype of who Black men choose. Now, I want to say this. I don't have anything against these women. I don't. I'm here to tell the truth to Black women. And that means I can't care about their feelings or their image. And I also can't care about Black men's image. The bottom line of it is Black men have lied to Black women and told Black women that we're too overweight, we're not attractive enough, we don't have good hygiene, we don't care about our bodies. And yet, when they go out and choose women of no color, they choose the exact same thing that they say that they didn't like in Black women. So this is a part of Black men's internalized self-hatred manifesting as racism. And that's one of the things that is going to be pointed out by this biracial woman named Dominique, who had a Black father, who experienced this in her home on the rare occasion when her father was actually around. So when we see women like this, understand that this is literally showing you everything that I've said about Black men's pathology, the contradiction that they are. The fact that they'll say that they don't like certain traits in Black women, but they'll go find those exact same women of no color and they'll date them. They'll marry them on a rare occasion because they really don't get married. Black men are not marrying really anybody. They're the least likely to get married, although they benefit the most from it. The funny thing is, Black women overvalue marriage despite the fact that there is not one benefit to Black women being married that is tangible. So you have this woman here who literally could have been in my Who They Really Choose video. And she
Okay, so before we get to the point where I'm gonna play that in its entirety so you guys can see that, I think that she picks certain things from this girl and clearly, and you guys will hear what the young girl says about her pain associated with her parents being inconsistent and unsupportive of her experience as a biracial girl. Um, you said self hate. She's the one with the biracial child that she lives with. No, no, no. So it's not this girl. It's another girl who she's referring to. She's not referring to the one that she has. This right here, this picture refers to the woman who she is using as a reference point to say that Black men say basically they hate Black women, can't stand, don't want Black women have no value to them, but then they go and they pick this type of white woman. I think that she's trying to, I think her intention is to be rude to this woman because this woman is heavier. And it's interesting to me that she would do that considering the age of the child. But whatever. Whatever. So I'm gonna let you guys listen to the girl that she puts on as her example of what it's like for interracial couples to be together. Okay.
she's complaining that she had a child with a Black man who now doesn't want to deal with the child because she's saying that he's rejecting the child because she is biracial. And see, this is the thing with Black men. Now, I don't really believe that at the root of it, it is because the child is biracial. I believe that this is what he's telling her because this is what he told her. In the comments that I'm going to show you guys, you're going to see what I'm talking about. And you've been seeing the video. I've been replaying it with no audio because the audio is simply a Nicki Minaj song. And one thing that I notice about these women of no color when they choose to get with Black men is that they try to get engrossed and ingratiated into hip hop and become a caricature of Black women, not understanding that you're not a better version of a Black woman. You're simply an outlet for him to express his self-hatred. These women are unknowingly the manifestation of Black men's self-hatred and disdain for themselves. And that is.
So I want to know from you guys, as you guys have been watching this, how many of you have taken notice to the fact that the entirety of her presentation over the course of this time goes towards the degradation of not only the Black male, but also these women who are not of melanated descent or color or whatever. I find that to be really interesting because that's one of the things I talked about at the very beginning of the video. People who are seated in that type of behavior that leads them on into the continuum of narcissistic personality disorder need to make other people feel inferior to elevate self. So you need to degrade one person so that you can move yourself to a higher level of being, because there is an insecure sense of self, those insecurities again, um, that have presented. And oftentimes we see that these insecurities are direct insecurities in relation to what they use to degrade the opposite sex, the other person, even if they're the same sex or whatever have you. So I'm gonna let you guys listen to some more here. We're gonna get into this.
That's why he is ultimately rejecting this child, because he's a trash bag bandit and a derelict who really doesn't care about children that he creates. He's telling her that he doesn't want this child because she's biracial and he can only create black children. But I'm going to show you guys something in this comment section where you're going to see that that's basically some BS as well. This dude just don't want to take care of a child like many black men don't. And that's why they leave their children, they leave their preferences, they leave black women, they leave Maria, they leave Ling Ling, and then they'll gaslight you and give some BS excuse like he didn't want this child because it's biracial and he can only produce black children.
If you guys haven't already done so, go to everythingebony.com so you can find natural hair care products made for us by
in these open relationships with black men for about a good 53, 54 years. And since that's been happening, there's been an uptick in single mothers and women of no color. Now, I get that within the last 50 years, we just recently got wind of social media, but the bottom line of it is even without social media, these biracial people grow up mostly in white communities. So how is it that these women who are also in these communities are not making the connection between black men and single mothers and absentee fathers? How are they not making that connection? Now that we have the
I thought about that too, but also I just want to kind of know how many of you have really examined the real issue when it comes to absent fathers or fathers who are not really involved in the lives of their kids and them leaving. Why is it, and my question, this question is more directed towards women, black women more specifically, right now. So why is it that the assumption always is that, and you not had a conversation with the male, period, the black male, period. Why is the assumption that black males prefer women of other cultures or races, and their preferences have something directly to do with you versus self? You know, it's possible that the man could have woke up and realized, like, dang, she fine as hell, Jessica Alba. It's possible. It's possible that a male could have woke up and realized that there are no limits to physical attractive components of a woman, because they all literally have the same thing. Your vagina is the same as hers. I mean, it may be a different shape, and maybe shaped differently externally, internally, whatever, but it's still a vagina. Your tits are still tits, ass is still ass. Like, these are things that are features across the board that regardless of race, women just have, period. You said there is something strange about the extremely high OOW rate. What is OOW? You guys like have to teach me about all of these shorts, imprints, things like that. But I feel like sometimes, I don't know. I guess maybe I have a bias. My parents are different races, different cultures of people. So I don't know. However, it just doesn't make sense to me that you would make a generalization of out of wedlock rates. Okay, okay. I agree, but I think that that's not just a black person thing in America. I think it's a cultural distinction. And I made that cultural distinction years ago, actually. And it's really interesting to me that there are the mindsets of these young people, especially now, these Gen X's, Gen Zers, actually believe that they should out there just be being sexually promiscuous and just having sex with whomever, whatever, whenever, so they can gain experience points, and that's supposed to put them, elevate them in the game of marriage once they get married. All very interesting to me, and my thing is, do exactly what it is that you feel works for you. However, just know that there are direct lineages when it comes to sexually related issues, sexual disorders, and hypersexuality. So it's up to you what you choose to do with your life. You only live once, right? Whatever. Live it the way that you want, but at least elevate yourself on an educational level so you can have direct insight that leads to your maturation and your journey of growth instead of a lack thereof. Okay. So it's clear in Cynthia G, very much like it was clear in Kevin Samuels' rhetoric, that she is hurt. She is broken. Life has been difficult for her. And specifically, it's been difficult because Black men have failed to meet the standard that she once held them to. Now, I did have the opportunity to see one of her very earlier videos where she was talking about weave and the fact, and that's why I think her rhetoric includes so much name calling, because men that she's had exposure to went to the extent of name calling, and that's a point of contention for her. For me personally, I mean, men have a right to do and be in their own spaces, however it is they feel that they need to do or be or whatever. It's not my business. Same thing for women. And then I feel like, if I feel like the vast majority of those said women are a representation of me, then we need to have a meeting of the minds. Let's have a conversation. And if you're the representative voice for us folks who look like us or move in this culture like us, like we do, right? Let's get some things straight, because like I don't agree with this or this that you're doing, right? So I think that men have to be the people who hold men accountable for the things that they do. And I do feel like women have to be the people who hold them accountable for what they do. But you don't do so. Accountability is not being shamed into something. So I'm not trying to shame somebody just as a means of me making them get into alignment with what I want for their life. Do you understand? I.e. Kevin Samuels, i.e. Cynthia G, Tanya TKO. And I'm not sure, I won't go there. Let's listen some more. I want you guys to especially pay a lot of close attention to the commentary that she's reading, though, by these people, because I really think that's interesting how so many people really have a pressing issue, especially Black women, when it comes to who these Black men are sticking their penises in, and when they're not sticking the penis inside of you. I feel like it's their business where they put their penis. As long as it's not going inside of you, why is the Black woman so insecure and concerned about those particular things? So much to the point that you would make negative commentary and you would associate the entirety of a race of people with just your limited experience with men, or expanded, whichever one, doesn't matter. Let's listen.
Advent of social media, what you saw in the comments was Black women saying, well, look, you chose a Black man. We tried telling you how they were, but you thought that you were better. But you thought that because you possess white skin and straight hair and colored eyes, and by colored eyes, I mean blue, green, gray, whatever. You thought that somehow that was going to make Black men value you more. And we get it, because they're all over social media. They put you guys on a pedestal. They talk about how much better you are than Black women. They talk about why they prefer you. And then they give you the same treatment. This is what Black men do to women that they value. This is what Black men do to women that they say are already giving them everything they want in a woman. And this is why I say you need to stop listening to what Black men say and start paying attention to what he does. But the bottom line of it is a lot of women of no color, now that they're seeing that they're only getting the same Black man that Black women get, and Black women are not being sympathetic towards that, just like women of no color, when you were sitting up in YouTube videos and Facebook videos, sitting up talking about how much better you are for these men, only for you to then find out that you're a single mother too, to then find out that you're dealing with the abuse too, to then find out that those 3 trash bags are at your house too. Now, all of a sudden, you want Black women to be.
Well, she needs to speak for herself, because I'm extremely sympathetic to this woman's plight, because I just feel like, oh my God, how could a guy do that? Any guy. Period. I mean, it's just, that's really sad. It is. But why do you feel like, why do you have to compare and insult this woman's eyes, hair, skin, all these things? What does that have to do with you? And when you say that this woman is getting the same Black men that we get, I have dated Black men, married, amazingness, okay, in a Black man. So I feel like, what do you mean she's getting the same level of Black man? She's getting the same Black man that we're getting. What do you mean? If you're, ladies, let me explain something to you. And I know, as Mario says, I'm about to piss somebody off, but I need to give it to you and give it to you straight, okay? Like, where's Miss Sandy? Unlike popular belief, although I do not like Kevin Samuels, because I am not a fan of bullies, okay? I do agree with some of the things that he says, but more importantly, let me explain something to you ladies. If you find yourself constantly seated before trash bag struggle dusties, or whatever it is that she's calling these men, because I have no idea what it means, and she's like, these 3 trash bags. What is in these trash bags? Somebody make it make sense. Is there a Cynthia G follower out there? Do I need to tag her in this damn post? She really needs to come over here and make this stuff clear to me. Like, I've sent the woman an email, like, can you come and clarify, translate for me this trash bag struggle dusty thing? Like, not sure what a dusty is. Trash bags, not sure how it ties into dust. Do you put dust in a trash bag? Like, I use a duster to dust. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking too much into it, because I just don't think that way. But all right, so let's say these guys are trash bag struggle dusties, struggle trash bag dusties, whatever, and you're finding yourself constantly seated, and you're seated at the table of this guy. It's a different man, but it's the same guy. And what that means is it's a different person, but the same personality. You must be like one of those fans that attract dust. That's a good reference. Maybe I understand the dusty thing then. I don't know. But if that's all you're attracting, maybe you need to take a really good introspective look at self, and then reframe some behaviors and thought patterns, and walk in your new defined purpose as a result of finding out what it was inside of you that needed healing, and doing the work, right? So that's what I'm gonna say about that. But let's get back to listening to some of these very interesting things she's got to say. And more importantly, I want to get to the part where she plays the video of this young Black biracial woman, and I don't want to really speak to her experience, because I don't want to negatively influence you guys' opinions or whatever, so
Be sympathetic, and we ain't going. There are some Black women who will be sympathetic, but I'm glad there are more Black women who are pointing out the fact that these women literally caused this to happen to themselves. Am I saying that they are responsible for Black men's actions? No, but I'm saying they're responsible for Black women's response. Because when you sit up here and think that you are better, when you sit up here and ignore the conditions of a community that's created by a group of men, and think that somehow that very group of men is going to change his pathology just because you possess white skin. You are bringing that on yourself. It just is what it is. So a lot of these women don't like the fact that Black women are saying you should have chose better. A lot of women don't like the fact that Black women are not as sympathetic as they want them to be and coddling them. And we know with women of no color, they're used to being coddled. We know they have the same pathology as the derelict trash bag bandits that they're attracting. And guess what those trash bag bandits are doing? They're in the comments doing the same thing that they do to Black women, basically telling her she should have chose better, basically saying that she only wants to have the child so she can sit up on welfare and collect.
Okay, so wait, now it's a trash bag bandit. So are the trash bag bandits stealing the trash bag struggle dusties? Like, I am so confused, you guys. Somebody go find a Cynthia G follower, please.
Collect the check, their pathology is coming out because now the circumstance is the exact same as it was when the situation was only happening to Black women. And guess what else is going to happen? When this becomes a national issue, Black men are going to start saying the same thing that they said. Somebody took them out of the home. Somebody wouldn't let them raise their biracial children. Women of no color were racist, is what they're going to say. And therefore, they didn't want these Black men raising their children. This is what they're going to say because this is their pathology. And all they do is make excuses and not take accountability for the actions that they've been engaging in for a very long time. I want you guys to listen to these two videos from this biracial woman, Dominique, and then we're going to come back and talk about what she is saying because she understands Black male pathology. Unfortunately, not enough Black women do. Listen to these videos. I'll come back for final commentary.
My father is fully Black, but he's not pro-Black. He thinks the way in which he can support the Black community is to be a good example. Essentially, tokenism, respectability, politics, etc. Black fathers are different in every case, but a lot of them do hold internalized racism. A lot of Black men are also with white women because they hate Black women. Even though because they're Black, there is a high chance that they will have a Black daughter, a Black woman as a child. And that internalized racism and that hatred can then be projected onto the Black daughter. Personally, my father doesn't hate Black women, but he does have a lot of internalized racism, hence the respectability politic. He grew up in a predominantly white area. We've had situations where we've been in arguments and he's used Black racial stereotypes against me. For example, saying, don't be the angry Black person. And again, he's fully Black, I'm mixed, but he's still using this against me. Black fathers often enable the racism that comes from the white mother. They turn a blind eye to it. They don't see it as that big of a deal. A lot of Black men see white women as a trophy, as a sign of status, something they think can almost bring them in closer proximity to whiteness and therefore the privilege. Because with Black men, if they're cishet, usually being Black is one of the only marginalized identities that they hold. A lot of these Black men are also colorist, futurist, etc. And we know by now that not all mixed kids come out with light skin, blue eyes, and loose curly hair. So if that child does happen to come out dark skinned with type 4 hair, Afrocentric feature, that self-hatred again is just going to be projected right onto the child. And the mother's racism is going to exacerbate that. Basically, the Black father is racist too. He's just racist in a different way, which is a recipe for gaslighting. Being frustrated with your white parent for doing something racist and then having your fully Black parent not agree with you makes you feel like you are crazy and maybe you are in the wrong when in reality you're not. A lot of these Black men also think that a white woman having a Black child almost makes her Black and makes her exempt from racism, among other things, which is absolutely not the case at all. It's just a lot of complacency, enabling, and racism in many different forms.
Now, you guys saw those videos, and listen, I'm going to reach out to this woman and do an extensive interview with her. A lot of people have been asking me to do so since I've been including her videos in my content, and I am going to do that because I think this will be a very good discussion for people to listen to on my channel, and I also think it would be a very good opportunity for her to get more exposure with her message. And the reason being is because the message needs to be brought out. In order for Black women to...
Oh my God. Okay, so what are you guys thinking after listening to the woman who's, stating her pain is around her experiences as a young girl who had ideas of what racism looked like and what racism was, and then essentially started to move into a place where she was invalidated by her father, who was Black, and not supported by her mother, who was white. and felt further invalidated in her sense of self as well by her own admission. This is, I'm just going as what she said. So the thing is, you will find a content creator on TikTok who is saying these things, but maybe it's possible that your black father, who actually lived through racism and knows what racism actually is, has a better idea of what that is. Maybe his expectations that he's stating are standards of life for you. And I've noticed more frequently than not, YouTubers who are Gen Zers, Gen Xers, and stuff like that. I've noticed that these groups of people have a real issue with people teaching them things, telling them things, urging them to do better, be better, perform at a higher rate, present yourself at a better rate, at a higher rate, more efficient rate that aligns with what you say your end stage goals are. And as a result, you guys see that as slights. It's not a slight if somebody's trying to help you constructively criticize your current presentation of self and reposition you so in a place to where you now have ideals that say, this standard indicates and aligns with what I say I want. Talk about cognitive dissonance. Where's Kevin Samuels? This is great. But so that is what I'm basically trying to give you guys in this snippet. Hopefully you guys have kind of seen some of the things that have lit the fire underneath Cynthia G and lit the fire underneath Kevin Samuels, even lit the fire under Umar Johnson. Now we're going to shift the conversation to Dr. Boyce Watkins. Now, a lot of people who have submitted content to me have, asked the question, often raised the question like, hey, do you think he's a real doctor? I don't have any words sometimes, but when it comes to the things that people say because they don't like the content delivered by people. And I feel that it's necessary at this point of the conversation that I convey a very clear message to you guys. Doctors are human beings like everybody else. Like we hold MDs, PhDs, EDs, whatever. But guess what? We are friggin' human beings, right? So we function in the same capacity as anybody else. If we are not calibrated properly, we definitely have issues and experience life like everybody else. The distressors are the same because we're a human being. Yeah. Yeah. It was an interesting thing that my father taught me very, very long time ago. He said, the more money you have can mean the more problems. And you know what? It's a fact. I learned it over the course of time. So Liz says there is a lot of colorism and featureism in our community, unfortunately. Sad sounds like what this particular black father demonstrates, possibly from the perspective of this daughter, who is definitely a Gen Zer. So perspective, right? Perception shapes reality. So if I am looking to feel validated because the society that I am now placed in, the environment that I'm now placed in, which is a school, during a time like right now, and I'm shaping my perceptions of the outside world, it's possible that in my school system, amidst all of this Breonna Taylor, George Floyd things, right? All of this stuff that's going on right now. It's possible that at some point, me as a person who is biracial, it's possible that during this stuff, I've aligned myself with people who have been influential. I won't say necessarily the wrong people, right? People who have been influential to a point where they've told me that racism looks like this, microaggressions look like this. And the reality is, these things are not racism because they're not racially charged or racially related They may be systemic discrimination, but it may not be based on race. Why would I know it's not based on race, or how would I know it is? If myself and another person of a different color or race or whatever you guys want to call it are presenting at the exact same time, and we're both asking for the exact same opportunity, and we both have the exact same credentials for said opportunity, and we're both moving and shaping our lives in the exact same direction with the exact same background that contributes to further qualifications, and I am dismissed, the first person dismissed, right? And then they go back and they accept this other person. I could definitely raise that argument and it could definitely be valid. However, if all of these factors are not in congruence, all of them at the same time, presented all at the same time, then there is no validity to that claim unless we can look at the fact that this, even if the person is racist, right? I think that's interesting that people think that just because people are racist, everything they do has to be racist. No, no. Just because you're a Christian doesn't mean that you go to church every Sunday. Just because you're a Christian doesn't mean that you haven't had sex 116 times by the time you decide to make the decision to get married. I think I've pissed somebody off. The realities are everything is not about race, Black people. When there is segregation, most of the time that segregation at this point in this lifestyle right here is initiated by Black people. We have a tendency as Black people, Black and brown people, to separate ourselves from other people in order to satisfy that inferiority complex that is seated in our insecurities about ourselves, because we were forced to learn about what someone else said was our history as it applies to our becoming Black Americans, said slavery, right? So you said, so why do people always want to use personal attacks on people instead of proving that what they said is wrong? I think that has to do with the insecurity component. It heavily has to do with the insecurity component, because like I've pointed out, both in Kevin Samuel's rhetoric, both in Cynthia G's rhetoric, even in the video that I'm not sure if you saw the video that I presented on Umar Johnson, even in his video where he's sitting with this Black boy who apparently you want to say, because you hear him mention him being diagnosed with ADHD, potentially, right, as a suspicion by school psychology. You hear him being tested for that. You feel like this is a great way for you to make your point that the system is against Black boys. And in the same sentiments, same statement, the same boy says, but instead they moved in a different direction because they recognized that maybe, just maybe, this had to do with more of the gift versus ADHD behavior, because trauma and ADHD do look very similar. Okay, I must say that. Okay, because ADHD symptoms and oppositional defiant symptoms are typically assigned to DMDD, okay, disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. And I know you guys aren't clinicians, so you have absolutely no idea what that is. But basically, it's the same thing or looks the same as ADHD or adjustment disorder in kids, or depressive disorders in kids, because it is a depressive disorder essentially because it has to do with attachment related injuries. But that's just not, you don't need to know that part. Just know that there are lots of diagnoses that are very much in alignment with one another, which is why differential diagnosing is an integral component of what we do as clinicians. And that's why you can't rely on the internet for self-diagnosing. Go to a clinician. But so to get to that, right? To get back to what we were talking about, that drives these underlying insecurities in these content creators as they shift and start to adopt negative components of their behaviors and personalities more consistently. What we will notice is that, like Dr. Boyce Watkins, he attaches himself to whatever it is that seems like it's valid enough to gain ground in the Black community, because he's trying to appease the Black community, but essentially he's trying to make money. You say it's called defense mechanism and slightly insecurity, ref. It's not slight. It's so defense mechanism comes up when we are offended. We are offended when our insecurities are exposed by people other than ourselves, and so there is no safety there. You said it's the go-to for the person using a personal attacks to gain the upper hand. Yep, yeah, yeah, love it. Stranger talk, you're gonna be my like what do you call it? Translator. Yeah. If you can translate what a trash bag struggle dusty three trash bag bandit is, because I'm still lost about that one, and I don't know, maybe you guys aren't taking me serious, but I'm so serious, so serious. um you said accusing people of liking men just because they won't sugarcoat certain things is juvenile behavior. I think that to make the accusation based off of that definitely is juvenile behavior. But I will say that it's possible that Cynthia G does have a point, because Kevin Samuels did say in his interview that he wanted the LGBTQIA plus community to assist in the attacks against his character as a result of gay bashing, etc. It says due to the attacker being ignorant to the topic or information. Agreed. But so when we go to the relevancy of Boyce Watkins, right, as we're repositioning ourselves to him, Boyce Watkins made a comment on what is that place where they have the rapist guy? Charlemagne the God? The Breakfast Club. That's what it is. Yeah. So he made a reference while talking to DJ Envy and Charlemagne the God, and Angela Yee. They're all on this Breakfast Club thing or whatever. And he made a statement in reference to the issue, how to solve the issue in the Black community when it came to Black boys. Okay. And he said that, I really don't even want to repeat this because I feel so disgusted by it. But he said that Black boys were not made to be followers. That's why all Black boys need to be taught how to become entrepreneurs in school. That's what needs to be taught. Um, so I'm gonna say this. I don't know. I can't justify that Dr. Boyce Watkins is or isn't a doctor, because like I don't know. Like, don't know the guy. Literally. Have no idea who he is. Um However, I will say this. When you are presumed to be an educator or in the school system, which is why there is so much confusion around the way that I see and conceptualize Umar Johnson, right? When you are responsible, when you have acquired a certain level of education and you're responsible for the direct oversight in education and maturation and growth of young people who are our future, and you say things like that, every boy needs to discover how to become an entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, they're not going to be able to go out here and vie for these jobs. It's two things that you're saying in that message. What you're saying is that the Black boys in the Black community are not efficient workers. They have zero work ethic, and they have an inability to learn said work ethic. And just because you don't have fathers in the home does not mean that you cannot learn how to be a hardworking person with value systems that align with a person who understands they must earn certain things in life before they can move to places in life where they can establish themselves to become entrepreneurs. Okay. Now, because he was saying that this is a viable option to solve the prison to pipeline situation in the prison pipeline, school to prison pipeline, I don't know, situation in America and Black boys, I'm gonna say that he either believes that he either really believes that there really is no hope for the Black community when it comes to valuing education, and secondary education, to be very specific. Um, or he has a very interesting way of coming up with solutions. I don't know. Oh God, Rush is crazy. Everybody's a sucker to you. Dr. Watkins is always sounding surrounded by crooks and scoundrels. What is seriously concerning? That's yeah. So I think that that's definitely concerning. But I am a person who believes that there is a person from every single walk in life that has a significant contribution to make in the grand scheme of things and our overall understanding in life and our journey as human beings. Because I've learned things from many people in all walks of life. I learned from my patients who are prostitutes, and I learned from my patients who are doctors. I learned from my patients who are attorneys. I learned from my patients who are sex offenders. There is something of value to be taken from every type of person in every walk of life, every person in this world, if you allow yourself to elevate and be open to learning about their experience and what that means for them and how they got there and all that good stuff. But sometimes you definitely have to have a very strong stomach. But no, seriously. I don't judge the content of a person's character only based off of their interactions, right? Um Collection of things. Mainly their word. But so I feel like when he says that this is how we solve that issue, what you're saying is that the black boys simply do not have what it takes for them to come up and be sufficient in life and profitable in life and learn things that are essential to their journey of becoming. And I think that that is a misunderstanding. I think it's a misquote. I think that young men, whether they're black, white, Latino, other Italian, whatever, I think they all need strong male influence in their life as far as modeling behavior, but they also need that strong positive male influence and not that toxic energy that comes from males that are broken. And so I think that it has a lot to do with the directionality that we're seeing right now in black men saying they don't want to get married, they don't want to have a lineage, they don't want to continue their line and things like that. But let me tell you something. I have more respect for a black man that will say that and then walk in accordance with that than I do for the black man going out here spraying their penis into every single vagina that he can get it into and making all these kids procreating and not taking care of them and walking away from them. Okay. But so it's one of those things where you just got to look at and call a thing a thing. If it's a thing, call it a thing so we can know what it is, and then we can move into a place of understanding, acceptance, but more importantly, elevation. Because when we are cognizant of a thing, when we're sure what a thing is and we call it a thing and we find out that this thing is problematic in some way, we can actually start moving ourselves, seating ourselves in places to where we can make, change, right? So accountability leads to profitability. That's it. That's everything here. So I don't knock anyone's professions, but my antennas go up when I hear things that run afoul ethics and decency. I agree, Liz, which is what point I'm getting to when it comes to him. That's the first thing that stands out for me. And then the second thing is that you would actually actively go and sit with an interview for, okay, not you conducting the interview of, but you would interview for a male who identifies as the same culture as you, who not only allegedly has committed sex crimes against a person and serious bouts of sexual harassment, but also he said it. He said he did it. You understand? And then just keeps that energy moving. So Mr. Brooks says, I believe what he is saying is, as black men trying to climb the corporate ladder, it will be a lot easier to start your own, because by starting your own, you can also build your community that will get us respect. Yeah, so to make that suggestion is not a bad thing at all. However, to teach a man that the way a man learns to be a productive member of society is to detach himself and make himself a boss before he's learned to be a follower is setting a man up for failure, whether he's black, brown, or otherwise. In order for you to lead, you must know how and when to follow. Proper discernment is a necessary component to adequate leadership. Okay. Trust me. Just trust me on that. And I know it's hard because I think that there is so much ego in the minds of our black people that we don't understand how mental conditioning can be a part of our process and can be really healthy for us. Okay. When I went to officers basic course, and I'm a female, okay, some journeys in life will be difficult. They'll be complicated. They will look predatory. They will look like they are larger than you and that you will not overcome it, right? But when you do, tasting that sweet success is everything. And so that's what it takes to be a business owner. That's what it takes to be an entrepreneur. You have to know that hard work is a part of the requirement for you to have your own. You got to know what it's like for you to work so hard at something and not gain anything from that something that you're working at because you're looking at the larger outcome at the end. And so people do not understand that if they've never had to work or develop work ethic at all. And I think that the other component that I noticed that plays a huge role in some of the shame and comparative dynamics of that show the series Insecurities amongst these YouTube creators that I've talked about today is the fact that you see a man, Kevin Samuels, saying abruptly from his mouth that people, young men who are raised by single mothers, never grow up to be men. There is no hope for those men. What is it that he's trying to say about his journey to manhood and what it looked like or how insufficient it was? I think that you guys have to ask the difficult questions. And I understand that he's traumatized by his experience, having been raised in a home with all these women and that having been turned down left and right and then repositioning himself in life and all of that good stuff. I get that. But at some point, you decide to heal. You make a conscientious decision to be better, actually. So not just put on a mask and behave better on the surface today because the world is watching, but innately, intimately within yourself and everything that you do, everything you pour yourself into, attach yourself to, is better as a result of your growth, humanity, and maturation. So hopefully I've kind of given you guys a really good overlay of what insecurities lead to and how deep-seated insecurities can lead to the inadequacies that we see constantly popping up all over YouTube. But the other thing that I want to have a very serious conversation about briefly is the fact that you guys are in control of what directionality these people go in, right? So if you're constantly moving to liking and supporting the negative content on these platforms, then you are definitely a part of the problem more so than part of the solution. The fact that we have, as Black people, the propensity to gravitate so hugely towards the negativity before we will acknowledge and gravitate to the positivity is just amazing to me. Today, earlier today, while I was out, this young man was shot at the gas station, young Black man. And it took a while, in broad daylight, might I ask. It took a while for the people who were standing around, i.e., and they were all Black people, to render help. Nobody moved, nobody ran, any of that. In fact, somebody started recording it on their phone while the guy lay there bleeding on the ground and posted it. And then took a picture, posted it on Instagram, and was like, hey, check your folks because this might be them. Young black male shot the Shell gas station, corner of Covington, and what's the other that road? I can't think of it right now, but if you guys aren't in Atlanta, I'm sure that's pretty irrelevant to you. But it's another black male shot by yet another black male. And when we see these things happen at the hands of the police officers, we're very quick to condemn, move in, say we want to do something, become hostile, hashtag and put t-shirts up, remember his name, and all this extra stuff. But nobody cares about these things. Huh? Yeah, Wellborn in Covington Highland. So I hope the guy survived. I really do. It was really, really terrible. And I feel really bad for him because at the end of the day, it says something about us as people. We're broken and we're inadequate in responding to situations like that appropriately. And we are cowards when it comes to facing the real reality, when it comes to the eradication of Black people. I absolutely will do and always will love my Black men. Why? Because Black men are a reflection of me. So the inadequacies of Black men are the inadequacies of me. Same thing for my Black women. The inadequacies of Black women are a reflection of me. The same thing for white men and white women. The inadequacies of them are the inadequacies of me. And I feel the same way about my culture in Finland. I think that people have to learn how to start realizing that people, humanity, we are all a reflection of one another. We're reflective of one another. We're all connected and all interconnected, whether we like it or not. And there are no incongruences. Race is really not a thing. Humanity is humanity. We all bleed the same. Stop making these inadequate comparisons because it allows you to validate the insecurities that you've been conditioned to have. Step into a place to where you realize that you are worthy, not because you need to put somebody else down, but because you need to look at everything around you and elevate the people around you with positive energy versus that negative energy that continues to gain ground in a society that is completely conflicted and lost as to what their identity are and is and becoming. So let me check out some of these comments. What Kevin is saying is women are raising the same men they complain about. You think so? Says yes, that's why we have to start our kids off early, learning finances. Most of parents don't even have bank accounts. And Boyce Watkins' earlier content, he was pushing parents to teach their kids. And I agree, and I did see. So I think you came in at the end of this conversation. So the idea was initially content creators start off with one type of energy and they typically gravitate to another because that looks like it's more beneficial because people grab onto that, they hold on to, and people typically like to tune in for the negative antics. So in the couple of Boyce Watkins videos that I've watched on YouTube, he has a very huge tendency to name call, and the same things that I see Cynthia G do, same thing I see Kevin Samuels do. All of these are inadequate means of coping. I don't need to insult other content creators or groups of people in order for me to feel more validated. Okay. So I'm going to feel valid in me holding people accountable because I'm seeing the incongruences and the personality deficits and the way that we move, our behaviors that are leading to our demise, and I can hold us accountable to move into a place of shaping new behaviors without having to do all of that. It's just called emotional maturation. Doesn't matter how much it bothers me, how much it grinds my gears, how much it breaks my heart. I'm a woman of pragmatics. Make it make sense to me. If it doesn't make sense what you're doing, then do something different. Why? Because you choose to do something different and because you want to reposition yourself in life to where you're more adequate, not only to everybody else around you, but also to yourself. Because the real issue when it comes to insecurities is that we don't like what we really see when we take a really tough look in the mirror. And because it's so scary acknowledging that and knowing that this world is filled with bullies and we're not quite sure if we'll be able to sit with the fact that this bully has now my truth, right? That's the reason that we move to these inadequate means of coping. So let's continue to play through these comments that I missed. It says finances early in life, therefore they learn how to interact with people and how to make connections. I do agree that that's something that I don't see actually being taught quite frequently in communities. Says people don't realize that you can own a business for a long time before you turn a profit. Not everyone can stomach that kind of sacrifice. Exactly. And then when they find themselves amidst that chaos, what right? They vacate it all together and they're actually out more than they gain. Um, I agree, Lisa. To build communities as Black business owner, you would have to sacrifice and invest is in the next Black business. Exactly. Um, so on and so forth, along with like-minded Black business owners. Yeah, and you know what? One of the things that I notice is that there is so much insecurity in the Black business owners, even as clinicians. Like I can name lots of practices that I have, pushed into operation, helped into a greater level of efficiency when it comes to their operations and things like that. And it's a very different experience for me if I had to make a comparison between the Black people that I've done that for and the people that are not Black. The insecurities are there all the way to the top, and it's sad. It's a sad thing, very disheartening. So um hopefully you guys have sat with and found a productive means to be able to recognize some of these behaviors, or why some of your content creators are now pushing out negative content versus the more positive things, even if they started out that way. And maybe I positioned you guys to be able to call a thing, because sometimes we follow people, and let me tell you something, there is nothing wrong with following people, right? However, you have to be at a certain level of discernment. And this is what I was talking about when I was talking about Boyce Watkins, talking about teaching boys to be entrepreneurs before they learn how to follow adequately. Boys have to learn how to be boys before they can be men, okay? Or even learn how to be men. You have to crawl before you walk. You understand what I'm saying? Walk before you run. These are basic. They're it's about proper symmetry and having the right algorithm, having the right steps in alignment with one another when it comes to maturing into different spaces. So the thing is, if you do not learn work ethic at the basic level and properly learn how to follow, when you find yourself responsible for leading other people, you're leading yourself to your own detriment. And not only yourself, now you're also leading those other folks with you down that same slippery slope of detriment. And that's what constantly I'm seeing in Kevin Samuels. That's what I'm constantly seeing in this young lady, Cynthia G. You can be positive and stay with your tune of positivity, encouragement, and enlightenment, and be successful in these YouTube streets. Find other people to attach yourself to and find adequate modeling behavior for. Let's put that last comment up. It says, why do you need to be a follower if you're a natural leader? Okay, so let me explain this. There are no leaders who do not know how to lead, who do not know how to follow first. Maybe I need to say that more clearly. Natural leaders have proper discernment. And because they have proper discernment and because they are natural leaders, they have no insecurities that prevent them from stepping into a place where they can learn from the elements that make them a strong leader. Those are natural leaders. Natural leaders understand that they must position themselves as the student in order to master a thing that is unknown. So following is an essential component in order for you to succeed as a leader. Following, observing, adequately growing, and being able to take lessons of life and apply them appropriately, especially for the many people who will follow you. As a leader, these are basic attributes. Not only are these things required, right? These are basic attributes for people who are natural born leaders. And natural born leaders don't need to show you, they don't need to tell you that they're a leader, because the way that they move is out of a place of secure sense of self and not insecure sense of self. They have no problem with learning from other people. They have no problem with inviting those other perspectives that do not align with theirs, but could shed light as to where other people are going who don't believe in the same things that they do. They also do not take away from other people's sense of self. To explain and understand a thing are different things than to combat a thing. So never would a natural born leader go against the person's personal beliefs that shapes who they are at the core of their being. As a result, they're always looking to learn about that person and can always make suggestions as to how people can become a little bit more enlightened or in tune with the blind spots they possess because they're in their dance. However, it doesn't mean that they have to impress upon those people, force upon those people their own views, right? So Liz says there's a process for everything. There is no future in skipping a step. Right. As they say, there are no shortcuts to success. When you have short-term fans, short-term fame, and people have you blown up overnight, okay, as it would have it, you are missing something, because there is a process to it. Like they say, there's levels to this. There is levels to leveling up in life, okay? And I'm here to help you guys understand the accountability component and how we can shape new behaviors. So let me encourage you guys to step into a place of authenticity and learn how to accept and embrace the insecurities that you possess inside of you in a more authentic way, so that you can find out what it is that you need to alleviate yourself of the insecurity that's there and that's in existence, in order for you to become a person who is positive and you wreak positive energy only. And as a result, your outcomes are equally positive and beneficial, not only to yourself, but the other people that are connected to you. That doesn't mean that you're here for the benefit of, or to placate or please other people. It essentially means that you're a person who understands that there not only are levels in life, right, but there are also lessons in life that are required for you to reposition yourself and find yourself in places and spaces that contribute to your secure sense of self. You understand? Versus what we see in these various content creators that I have displayed for you guys today. What's going on, the official urban therapist? How are you? You definitely got to go and check out the replay. It's been a great review today. I want you to see this content because I know that you've been out there setting out, making a point of reviewing some what is her name? Cynthia G stuff, and I'll send you the link to the videos that I've reviewed today, and also I'll post them underneath the description, you guys, for you guys if you want to go check out the entirety of them. But I think that you guys definitely watch the full entirety of that Cynthia G um video, and there is another one that I also referenced in her becoming, right, but I didn't show you guys, but I'll also put that out as well. So that is all that I have, you guys. I want to. Oh, yeah, I'm the master manipulator, manipulating the minds, computers, and consciousness of everyone. So you says you're depicting a leader from your perspective. A leader can learn without being a follower. So your your comment is contradictory. just in case you didn't notice it. But a leader is just that, but not only based on my perceptions, but also various frameworks of leadership development programs and what we know about the science of leadership and how that works not only in other animals but also in humans. But you're welcome to present other facts and stats if you have them. So that is all that I have, you guys. Go out there, be great, live free, be kind to other people, and make sure that you're a positive impact on the world around you. And if you cannot find yourself becoming a positive impact on the world around you, just find ways to not be a negative one, right? Just be, right? Just be. So I absolutely love you guys. Thank you so much for your content, for your various comments on this particular video, but also for the various amounts of content that you guys have sent me to review over the course of the last couple of months. It's you guys are great. So that's all that I got. You guys take care and be careful out here in these streets, okay? My heart goes out to the family of that young man shot today at the gas station. This world that we live in, the Black community, our level of accountability is shameful. Oftentimes, we need to do better. Definitely need to do better, especially here in Atlanta. We've got to get a gauge on Black crime, Black on white crime, Black on any crime. Because we, as Black people who identify with Black and Indigenous people of color, we have got to make a different and set a different level of standard for the way that we move and we are in life. So, later days. Bye.
Who alive can't put me in a box. I redefine any definition you got. I am the tiger, I'm making steps to the top. The flames, I rip it up, you just gotta hand me the rock. Take a seat, you cannot stand it. All I know, the flow harder than a Scotch bunny. Don't try studying me, you cannot manage. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon. Phenomenon.